Welcome back to the farm, everyone. Okay, you guys are chatty this morning. No, your eyes and ears are not deceiving you. It is in fact raining right now. Something we haven't seen a lot of. I also just noticed that yellow streak over there to the west, right along the end row where I started spraying fungicide on those March beans. Looks like that elusive corn chemical, either the Callisto or the atrazine, must have baked out of the boom while I was sitting. I should have sprayed some out in the lot because I left some yellow. And I sprayed quite a bit of beans before that. It's amazing how long that stuff hangs in there and works its way out if you're not careful. I prefer to not stand underneath this tree for any longer than I have to. I project there's a day shortly where this eastern limb is going to fall because it's already starting to crack underneath. Usually you'd expect a tree limb to fall like during a storm or when it's windy. Last summer, one of the other big limbs that faced more to the northwest, about the same size, just in the middle of the day, no breeze or anything spectacular going on, just cracked over and fell down. And it was a rather large cleanup project, so try not to push my luck there. You guys are already way too busy for me this morning. Although some of these trees are reaching the end of their life, this yard is full of a lot of beautiful foliage. This was initially a pasture. I think they free ranged maybe some cows, pigs, I don't know. It was a different era back in the day. And then my grandparents, so my dad's mom and dad, built this house in like the 70s, I believe. They lived here up until they passed in the 2000s. Then my grandma passed away in 2012. Sat empty for a while. My sister and her family lived here for a handful of years, and then they moved somewhere else. And now my family and I live here. So it's awesome to live by the farm. Just crazy how big some of these trees are and how much damage they do when they fall. I know a lot of you want to see a video where I sit down and talk with my uncles, maybe my mom and her parents, about the history of the farms and everything that's led up to here. I think that would be neat. At the same time, I'm probably the windiest person here and the best storyteller, so I don't know exactly how that would shake out, if I could even get them to sit down and agree to it. And knowing my family, there would also be a little bit of BS you got to kind of weave through to interpret the story. You've got to remember, folks, this is not like an MTV reality TV series. It's more like a zoo exhibit with a camera on it. I finally gotten it all figured out, ladies and gentlemen. If the family and I leave for vacation, it rains. Last year, beginning of July, 4th of July, we went on a trip to Michigan to explore the Great Lake, Michigan itself. It rained 4 inches while I was gone and was super windy. This year we went down to Hilton Head, South Carolina to enjoy the beaches there, and it rained 1 inch while I was gone. I'd actually take the inch over the 4 inches because the big rain did some water damage. The little rain, I think, was just kind of like a life preserver. Either way, we leave, we get some rain, and we get some R&R and some sunshine, which is not good for me. And we're back to operating. I didn't capture it on video. Dad and I filled the tanker trailer up with water and manually irrigated our sweet corn patch. Again, that's like a love, labor, passion project for Dad. He really enjoys growing the sweet corn. We don't sell it or anything. He eats a lot of it, 1, and 2, we give a lot away to friends, family, and people in the community just because we can. And it looks really good. I'm sure it looked good after we irrigated it. I'll put a picture. It looked horrible before. And then we got a rain a couple days later. Looks phenomenal, almost like a computer animated this thing. No, we couldn't irrigate our entire farm with a 7,000 gallon water tanker. We can irrigate an acre of sweet corn though. I don't know if this is quite an acre. Might be a little more, might be a little less. This should be ready to eat in another couple weeks. Oh, that is except for where Dad planted over in the ditch and possibly Chris mowed it off. So there's one row there that could look better. I don't think that's going to make much anything. Oh well, just a rounding error. When it's as dry as it's been here for the last 5 weeks up until the 4th of July, an inch of rain, especially on soybeans, is like jet fuel. The beans take off vertically, horizontally, they close the rows, it's great. Gets that residual chemistry we put with our post-herbicide application activated, and ultimately I think we're in for a good close to the season. Soybeans can make up a lot of yield potential with later rains from July into August into September. Corn probably could have used a little more rain earlier to maximize top end. It's not to say though we can't still grow really good corn. The rain definitely helps, and there's more coming. Without a doubt, that yellowing chlorosis you're seeing out there is herbicide contamination. This is where I pulled into the field at. I unfolded and then probably just started there and took off. You see kind of a dilution as you go, because as that new mixture solution makes its way through the boom, it kind of lessens the actual strength of the corn chemical that must have just gotten baked out of the rubber in the booms. It's the most crazy phenomena that happens. I had probably 40,000 gallons of soybean safe herbicide water combination through the sprayer after I rinsed the sprayer in the tanker, and just sitting for a couple days in the heat before I started spraying this soybean fungicide again was enough to bring it back out and hurt that a little bit. So I should have sprayed some out in the lot or on the road. I even ran that precision reclaim, which probably lessened the extent of the damage. If I'd not had that, that could have been a much bigger pattern. Those beans are going to be fine. It would take a lot of very strong corn chemical to kill them. They're definitely not going to look great for probably another 7 days. No big deal. It's hard to find good help, and I am the cheapest sprayer option, so get what you pay for. What has been a curse for so many over the last week, ironically, may end up being a blessing for us here in South Central Illinois. The once great Hurricane Beryl has been downgraded to a tropical storm, and it's actually making its way up through the Midwest, through the Corn Belt, and its path comes right here through our area. We're supposedly going to get 2 to 3 inches of rain, possibly more, maybe less. I'd take it, as long as we don't get 10 inches of rain. Everyone always asks, this is the My Radar app on the iPhone. It's what I've always used. I do have the premium version. It shows you the path of the tropical storm. I'm where that blue dot is. I have little pins where we have different farms I like to keep track of. And supposedly if you're on the north side of the storm, this path here, you've got a lot of rain chances. And then on the south side, something to do with how the tropical storm rotates, the pressure, I don't know. There's a chance of a lot of severe storms, tornadoes. Hopefully no one has to deal with any of those. We would appreciate a couple inches of rain though. An inch was a nice little lifeline for us the other day. A couple more inches would get us into late July without desperately needing more. I've always found the duality of life, the contrast, to be so funny, because one person on a farm is always needing a rain, and another people, like those farmers up in Minnesota, Northwest Iowa, some of the Dakotas, need it to stop raining. Like, we haven't gotten more than an inch or 2 inches now in the last 6 to 7 weeks, and some of these guys have had 10 inches in the last 3 weeks. It's funny how that works. Someone's always needing something, someone always needs something less. I did make a slight management miscalculation with the farm and my family. We should have come home from vacation a day earlier. We made the 13-hour drive yesterday. I have some beans, like 200 acres, April planted, short season beans that are at that R3 growth stage, and they're really due for spraying. And then I have all that early corn, probably 300-400 acres, and early this year's second week of April, that's also probably ready for corn fungicide. And I was really hoping to get here, get the Hagie ready to go, spray those beans, and then spray that corn before a couple inches of rain pushes me out for 7 days maybe. Didn't happen. Rain came earlier, and we got a shower last night. No big deal. We'll adjust. Not too concerned about it, because when it's really dry, disease pressure is often kind of limited. Okay, who pooped on the stairs? Have some decency. It's not hard to see the variability out in our fields. You've got early April planted stuff there. Over there, it's got those darker tassels on it. And all this May stuff, which also is uneven from compaction, nitrogen issues. I really don't know why it looks like that. It's just now starting to shoot tassels. If this had gotten some rains earlier, it wouldn't be so uneven. When you plant in less than ideal conditions and then you don't get rains, it's never good. The corn always comes up wonky, uneven. It is what it is. Got to move on, recalibrate. Hopefully keep getting rains. It should finish out strong. Just been hauling corn here out of the 48 footer. Last bin at the main farm. It's like it's still got every bit of 20,000 bushels in it. And it's worth less every day. Worth less is an understatement. I don't know if you guys follow the grain markets, but it has not been good. Quite literally a bloodbath, especially if you saw our balance sheet on old crop corn and how little of it we've priced so far. I guess it's a luxury to not feel the pressure to need to price aggressively earlier in the year to offload operating loans and things of that nature. At the same time, probably a massive miscalculation on our part to not sell for $6 or $5 in the winter and even a couple months ago, as opposed to now where old crop corn at the local elevators like sub $4, $3.80. You account for inflation, it's not pretty. No big deal. I'm sure equipment, seed, fertilizer, chemicals, they'll all go down in price, right? I know some of you are probably curious about the 30-inch rows over here in western Shelby County, how they're progressing. It's into the first week of July, and there's some good spots, there's some bad spots. Overall though, I'm pretty happy with them. The real issues with these beans is more so the weed control. You can see I didn't get a full kill with the Liberty I applied 2 weeks ago on that plant, even at 20 gallons an acre. Some are going to survive, and the question then becomes, do you come out here later in another 10 to 14 days and spray them again? You're going to be stressing these plants out. They're doing reproductive growth and vegetating at the same time. They're still every bit of 15 inches of row to close. The rain's going to help them grow. It's just kind of a calculation of agronomics, economics, and logistics here. And they're going to be due for fungicide before too long, so it gets kind of complicated. I'm happy with how they look. At the same time, narrower rows are better from the agronomics of weed control. That's where these lack. They look great though. I mean, for 30-inch rows on soil like this, it's hard to complain. Definitely going to have to come out here and look at them again here in another 10 days and evaluate the weed control. Looks good other than the high pressure areas. I happen to be in a spot that we farmed for a few years. We're kind of decent at weed control. There's other spots that don't look as good on the newer farms we picked up this year. Weed control is kind of a multiple year battle. You can't win weed control in 1 year, but you can sure lose it in one. That's kind of the way it works. Looks like the rain's picking back up. The heavy stuff's coming here in another couple hours. Hope we get some rain. These beans will definitely appreciate some more. Plenty of blooms on here. You just can't really make up that vegetative growth. They're planted late May as opposed to April as we'd like. They're probably R2 beans. Hopefully they yield well. Just gonna need to keep raining. Allie and Lucky are out there doing some last minute work in the garden. Looks like our tropical storm rains are finally making their way up from the south. They've added us here in Coles County to the flood watch. Looking for 2 to 3 inches of nice gentle rain. That would be perfect for our crop. The two border collies are not the least bit interested in the garden. You gotta watch the golden retriever Lucky. He will actually pick things out of the garden and eat them. What is your favorite thing in the garden to eat?
Strawberries.
Strawberries?
No, watermelons.
And watermelons?
No.
Oh, well, the watermelons aren't even really grown yet.
Daddy, Mommy, look, Mommy coming out.
Is she? Yeah, she's got something big. Tomatoes?
You're
a big fan of tomatoes, aren't you?
Maybe.
Graham, what's your favorite thing from the garden? Anything you can chew on? Hello. Did you guys enjoy your vacation?
Yeah. Your vacation over?
All of our vacation's over. Here comes the rain. Much needed and much appreciated. See, that storm's making its way up. I don't know if it's going to keep raining all afternoon or what the plan is. They're forecasting rain for the next few hours. Got some moderate rain working its way up here on that tropical storm path. Again, looking for 2 to 3 inches of rain, nice and easy. That'd be a miracle for us. It has been another few hours since I checked in with you guys. Another big round of rain came in, and it's coming down. More rain in the last hour than we've had in the last month. We're at 2.2 inches of rain total through the day. Looks like it's going to keep up for another few hours. As long as it shuts off here before we get to 3 or 4 inches, we should be all right. This is effectively a crop-saving rain. We're just getting some nice heavy tropical rainfall here in Mattoon. Looks like it should clear out here in the next 30 minutes. Wind's supposed to pick up. When you get over here into the Vincennes area, down to Lawrenceville, that'd be where Ivor's farms are, Ruche's are. They've had some severe storms that way, tornadoes on the ground. Hopefully they're all right. Like I said, south side of the cyclone getting tornadoes, north side getting heavy rain. I keep forgetting to mention it while I have the camera on. The great University of Illinois and their fantastic crop science department is having their annual crop physiology field day. This is a really good event. It is on August 1st. They're going to have a bunch of different topics from fertilizer management, tillage practices, weed control, high yield farmer panel with my good friend Troy Uphoff. I highly recommend, if you're a farmer in Illinois, maybe have some time on August 1st. It's a morning event. I think food will possibly be provided. Definitely look into attending it just for something to do, learn a little bit more, and improve your bottom line in your operation. And most likely, although I can't guarantee it, I will probably be there as well. So I look forward to seeing some of you all. Check out the link in the comments. Time to do a little crop scouting and give a little rain report. There's no water cutting out of the field there. Normally there would be if there was a big rain like we had. Not much there either. On a normal year with a regular amount of precipitation, I would be really upset to see water running down this ditch, meaning this big field, which is probably the lowest spot on our entire farm, the barometer of when we've had too much rain, having water running down. It's got the two 24-inch tile mains with direct surface inlets that drain it, and it looks to me like the water is actually leaving the field already. It's not going into the field, it's coming back out because it's exiting to one of two tiles. I'm ecstatic to report, although it doesn't look like it because it doesn't have that much water in it like it normally would. Over the last 36 hours, had 4.2 inches of rain thanks to the former Hurricane Beryl. It has probably broken this drought for us, and although there may be some issues in the lowest of the lowest spots in some fields, particularly where there's soybeans, this is the best thing that could have happened to us. It didn't come in an hour, came over a day. It allowed a lot of that to permeate into the soil to kind of rehydrate things, allow moisture to the roots, and then make some of those nutrients become available that aren't available when it gets really dry. And now we should have some pretty good growth. I should have brought a shovel with me because one of those 24-inch mains is right under there. You can hear it just sucking the water down. The way the water kind of flows in this area is most of the water that fills this 125-acre field that essentially has a 90-acre pond in the middle of it actually comes from the north. There's a lot of grade, crosses the interstate, comes down here, and it's filling if the water's moving south, and it's draining when the water's moving north because there's an outlet there. The other older outlet's over here. We'll go look at it. There's the original one. It's running about full capacity. Looks like a lot of water, and I'm not going to argue that point. However, normally if we get a 4-inch rain in a very short amount of time, which does happen historically, we've seen the water over the top of this steel cage here to the point where there's no way you're not losing 50 acres of beans out on that field. I don't think we'll lose anything, maybe a slight amount of water damage. That's just kind of par for the course. Overall, this is going to be a major net positive for both our corn and soybeans because we really needed a deep saturating rainfall. The only bad news is that I don't think I'm gonna be able to spray today or tomorrow or the next day. Maybe not for a week. Oh well. So what you gotta do, cost of doing business, right? Should have just stayed in Hilton Head. It's been 12 hours since the heaviest rain subsided. Dad said that it was actually over that metal box at first. Between the ground sucking a lot of it up and then the two tiles running, most of it's gone. To clarify, I did not come here with any intentions of working other than recording the state of the tile inlets, the water flow. Dad actually showed up to clean the inlets, so he's got his rubber boots on, his rake. I'm pretty worthless, and I'm a good spectator. You can't hardly see them, the 224 inches outlet right there. They're about halfway at water line. This will all go down pretty quickly. It's dry everywhere. Heck, those things may have had some cobwebs in them. They're chugging the water out, and the lower this creek gets, drainage ditch, whatever you want to call it, probably the faster they'll drain. And it'll go down by the minute, I'd say. Although the ground plane may be out of commission for a handful of days till all this moisture dries up, corn fungicide season is right around the corner. I can go ahead and do all the preparations, put the row feelers on, put the rear boom on, and they can stay on even though I have beans to spray with fungicide and even some herbicide to do still on those 30-inch rows. So that's what I'm going to work on this afternoon while the ground dries. Get this thing tuned up and ready to put corn fungicide on when the opportunity arises. I wish you didn't have to take these guards off to get the feelers back on. I probably could just leave them on. Maybe. Probably should have moved the sprayer out of where it's parked because this is just like a mud pit. It's not mud, it's just lime left over from years of piling lime here. Here's the feeler. Reason I don't leave them on is because these do kind of wear out. I don't know how much this little jello piece is to replace. And when you drive, they just like flop around. Kind of a goofy looking deal, but it works most of the time. It's amazing how on a sprayer everything gets rusty. Zip ties are like socks and underwear. You can never have too many extra pairs with you. Okay, feelers are on both sides, hooked them up. I'm not going to put the shields on until I get in the cab and start the system up to make sure it's going to see them. There's no connection issues. Yes, I did not trim the zip ties because I'm a psychopath. It'll take a few minutes just for the system, the John Deere system, to boot up in there because I've had the battery off, and if you've had the battery off, you can count on 3 or 4 minutes for the brain to start turning. Sometimes it takes my brain longer to start turning first thing in the morning, so I can't really judge. Oh boy, it is hot and musty in this cab. Getting some moisture in here or something. You see how there's a lip of precipitation on the window, and even the cab liner looks kind of sweaty. I don't know. Definitely stinks in here. That's surprising. It picked it up almost immediately. Immediately. That's not a word. Huh. That's easy. Where do I go? Guidance? Row sense. Okay, it sees them. Settings. On, GPS steer, manual steer. Okay. Yeah, now I'm just waiting for my new Fendt Rogator with the clearance adjustment to spray tall corn to show up. Just kidding. I can't even afford this Heggie. Jeff stopped in after he finished hauling grain for the day, helped me get these rear boom posts mounted. Got the actual plumbing on, it's all hooked up, just need to flip the valve in front, run some through and check it. I dropped these off at Lion's Tractor this winter. I thought Colton was gonna straighten them for me. He must have never got around to it because they're definitely not straight. It's extremely bent. It came this way, I did not back into anything. Looks like junk, but it's one of those things that's kind of complicated to bend. And a new one, I was quoted like right under $1,000 for a new one, so the bent doesn't look that bad. I'm gonna go see if I can flip the switch and then turn this on, make sure there's no particulates in here, blow them through, then I'll put my nozzles on. Well, there's our switch right there. It's that red lever. I'm not that tall, believe it or not, so I'm gonna have to partially unfold the boom. Maybe pull up a little bit too, because my truck's right there. Last year I made the mistake of putting all my nozzles on before I ran this, and there was some either tassels in here or something. I had a bunch of plug nozzles. This year I'm gonna actually run it before I put my nozzles on. Definitely uneven. That's just because I don't have any nozzles on here. The orifices of the nozzle create that pressure gradient across that gives you the pattern. There's just too many wide gaping open holes right here for the pump to put out a consistent flow across the boom. So that's why you're seeing such an unusual look. Oh man, this thing is so crooked. I hate how bad that looks. As I've done with all of my post-application trips this year, running these Greenleaf twin dual asymmetric fan nozzles, size 5. I go back and forth whether or not this is the best choice in nozzle for multiple applications. It's hard to get a Swiss Army knife of nozzles because every chemistry is so different. They like different things. Fungicide a lot of times is about coverage. These are a good coverage nozzle, but because they're air inducted, you get a little bit larger droplet size, a little bit more drift reduction. I'm more of a fan of the drift reduction this year, especially when it comes to spraying corn fungicide, soybean fungicide, corn in particular with this rear boom. It seemed like the size 4 T-Jet, twin jet, non-air inducteds that I was running last summer had a lot of driftiness. You could see those particles moving. Drift isn't like a crop damage concern with fungicide and even insecticide in a roundabout way, but it does mean you're wasting chemical. These should drift less. However, I don't know if having an air inducted nozzle is the right choice. It's hard because you got to invest so much money in nozzles. You hate to have to change them all the time. At the same time, if you want to do the best job, you probably need to have different sets of nozzles because one nozzle for one product may not be the best nozzle for another product. And look at that. I miscounted. I gotta go get another one. Hopefully you're set up in the safe zone. I'm gonna fire this up and check the pattern. A little leak there. I wonder if this nozzle body's getting worn out. Check valve's going bad. Looked pretty good to me from up top. Hopefully you guys can confirm that for me. Hopefully you could see that kind of twin fan action. There is an option, I discussed this when I put these on the front boom 2 months ago. You can actually rotate each one, so you could have one going that way and the other one the opposite way, and it gives you 4 patterns across the boom. I wasn't too happy with how wonky it made the front boom pattern. I'm fine with just 2 patterns of overlap. By the time you put it on at a high pressure, which I'm planning on doing, you'll get plenty of coverage in that canopy of corn. I only use this rear boom for corn. I'll flip that T-valve in the front for beans, and then I'll use the front boom for beans. It has to do with, 1, not having your boom all the way up and getting chemical on your window, because that'd be kind of yucky. And 2, when you're spraying corn, if you sprayed that corn and then you're going to lay it under the cab, you're going to rub a lot of that chemical off. So that's why you have the rear boom. I just wish that it didn't look junky like this. It's almost an afterthought on this machine. The brand new models, it's like a nice stout rear boom. This one looks like it was put together in someone's garage. Some of you are probably curious about the timing of corn fungicide application. Soybeans are pretty strict. You're looking for that R3 growth stage. Corn fungicide is a little bit more variable depending on when you planted, the day length of your hybrid, and what your goals are. Some operations are probably going to go at tassel, especially if you've had a more moist growing season, more humidity, you get more rains, you typically have more disease pressure proliferation. You get less rain like we've had, you're a little less worried about disease pressure because you've not had as much moisture and day-to-day humidity. That typically leads you to kind of delay application. So some people, if they had the aforementioned scenario of a lot of moisture, the minute they see tassels shooting, probably going to go ahead and go to protect that ear leaf, to protect the silks, all that. Another major consideration about that timing is if you're running an insecticide, which we don't run an insecticide on corn, we just run fungicide, Mirvis Neo. That insecticide is really there to protect the silks, and the silks need protected right after tassel. So you can't delay application because essentially you're using an insecticide that needs to protect something that if you wait till closer to brown silk like we're going to do, which is 3 to 4 weeks after tassel, you're going to waste your money on the insecticide. Not that they're terribly expensive on corn, just a economics, agronomics thing. It doesn't make any sense. That's why we're waiting. We're gonna shoot for that later window, hit it hard, and everything's gonna come at once. I'm gonna be flipping between spraying corn and beans. I mean, I may spray corn on one field, flip that front switch, and the next field start spraying beans. Don't have to worry about cleaning out because the fungicides are pretty interchangeable. They have similar mixes, and then if I carry a little bean insecticide to corn, doesn't matter. Yes, I just talked about that very quickly. No, there won't be a quiz, so disregard that if that made no sense to you. I'm trying to explain something, but it's kind of complicated, it's kind of simple depending on what side of the aisle you're on. Jeff's been busy hauling on and off. He's down to the last bin at the main farm, the new 48 footer we put in last summer. I think there's maybe 20,000 bushel of corn left in there. The motor was acting up a little bit on it when we cored it this winter. I told Dad about it, and then they started on it last week, and it was still acting up. It was just kind of seemed like it wasn't getting enough power. Called York Bin, they came over and looked at it, and what was happening was that the electrician wired the motor wrong. They wired it for 3-phase 440 volts. I don't know, I'm gonna get that wrong. It was like 400 and some volt 3-phase, and we've only got 230 volt 3-phase. We've got 3-phase, it's just it was wired for the wrong one, so the motor wasn't functioning properly. They switched a few connections in the motor housing, in the winding, and it purrs like a kitten now. That's good. You never know when you build something new if you're gonna have to replace something immediately. Wasn't the case, just wasn't set up right. For those of you who are keeping track, yes, we have everything you need for building a massive grain facility here. We've got the land to build it on, the land we own that we farm to make it make sense. We've got 3-phase power, we've got natural gas service here. The only thing we don't have enough of is money to make that happen because we're broke and corn prices aren't really helping with that at all. Yep, that's kind of the update for this video. Hurricane Beryl turned into tropical storm, post-tropical cyclone, whatever the terminology is, has officially redeemed our crop. I know we lost some yield in the dryness of May and June. Here we are though. I think we can still look at pretty average yields. There's no reason 230 bushel corn and 75 bushel beans aren't on the table. All it took was a nice 4 inches of rain to make it happen. Let's just hope there's no water damage. On top of all of that, you're gonna all be happy to know that this will probably be the quickest I've ever filmed a video and edited it and uploaded it. I've been so far behind for so long. It's just complicated to make the videos, record them, do all the farm work, and then edit when I'd like to be spending time with my kids or doing stuff in the yard or hanging out with my wife, any of a number of things. But I know a lot of you appreciate an active timeline of uploads that aren't really far behind. So I can understand some of your concerns about videos that are a month behind. I get that it doesn't feel real time, it kind of turns you off from them. So from here on out, I'll try to do a better job either editing and filming shorter videos so I can get them out quicker, or just figuring out a way to make it all work that keeps everyone happy, including you guys, including me. That's gonna be it for this video. I greatly appreciate every single one of you continuing to tune in and support the channel. Catch you on the next one. We should be spraying fungicide, hopefully. Unless we get a big rain, then we'll be ditching again. Thanks everyone, peace out.